In Russia, several houses burned down as a forest fire razed the Sverdlovsk region. Authorities say one individual was rushed to the hospital. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I am Nina Richie Alago Flores.
And I am Gianna Llanes. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
PSA to distribute national ID reprints on Friday. Typhoon Mawar brings power outages in northern Luzon. Beijing declines Washington's call for high-profile military talks. President Joe Biden is confident about U.S. debt deal. And Nepal honors 70 years of conquering Mount Everest.
I would like to request
The Philippine Postal Corporation, or PhilPost, says that the postal office may receive thousands of reprinted national ID by Friday. Madeline Villar Moratillo has the details.
Philippine Postal Corporation Postmaster General Luis Carlos says that PhilPost wrote to the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, requesting for the reprinting of almost 7,600 national IDs belonging to Manila residents that were destroyed in the fire last May 21. According to the Postmaster General, PSA will need 5 to 6 days to reprint the cards. He adds that the PhilPost will pick up the national IDs from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice asserts that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. should issue an executive order reorganizing the cabinet by delegating certain functions of PSA to the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, to help for the rollout of the national IDs. According to the PSA, only more than 27 million national IDs out of the 116 million national IDs were delivered as of 2021, while only 3.6 million electronic Philippine IDs were printed last year. Madeline Villar Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippines will not apologize to Kuwait for its alleged violations of international law. The government says it will remain steadfast in protecting distressed overseas Filipino workers in Kuwait. Bernadette Manuel reports.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said that they would not apologize for its alleged violations that led to the Kuwaiti government's order to suspend new entry visas to Filipinos. One of the conditions requested by Kuwaiti Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mansour Al-Otaibi, is that the Philippines should formally admit its alleged violations. Al-Otaibi also said the Philippine Embassy must pledge not to repeat its mistakes. He also demanded for the Philippines to file cases against those who put up rescue centers for Filipinos. The Kuwaiti government has accused the Philippines of violating their laws by holding shelters for distressed overseas Filipino workers. DFA Undersecretary Eduardo De Vega insists that there is no need to apologize for the alleged violations. He says the Philippine government did make mistakes by putting up rescue centers for Filipino workers. If there was any truth to the violations, De Vega believes Kuwaiti officials should hear their explanation as to why the Philippines has an obligation to protect their nationals. De Vega says they will not also file charges against those who put up migrant worker and overseas Filipinos resource centers in Kuwait. Bernadette Manuel reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Senate debate over the Maharlika Investment Fund bill has begun. Eden Santos for the details.
Solons exchanged heated arguments over the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund. Before its approval, Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel questions the composition of the Board of Directors of Maharlika Investment Corporation and its implementation. After 2 hours, he requested that the period of interpellation be suspended. Senator Pimentel wanted to inquire regarding the source of the funds, but the bill's sponsor, Senator Mark Villar, filed a motion to close the period of interpellations. Senator Villar insisted that all the issues raised during the interpellation of other senators were answered.
Mr. President, I object. I think we've debated this extensively. I've answered all the interpellations, and without prejudice to the amendments being proposed, I'd like to object, and I'd like to move to close interpellations.
Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri supported Villar's claim, stating that there was a need to start a period of amendments. Senator Pimentel expressed his disappointment because he hoped to focus on the most important components of the proposal. The Senate President says Villar, as the sponsor of the proposal, has the right to refuse to answer questions about the proposed bill. But Pimentel asked Zubiri to read the rules of the Senate regarding answering queries.
We recognize that it is the right of the sponsor to sit down if he or she so wishes and no longer be interpellated. So I think it is moot and academic, and then it was.
Senator Pimentel filed a motion to continue the period of interpellation, which Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva requested that it be put to a vote.
The desire of the minority is just to be educated, Mr. President. Can the presiding officer cite the specific rule which governs the situation?
Pimentel lost the vote with only 2 in favor of continuing the interpellation, while 11 opposed. Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. assigns the Department of Finance to comb through the tax incentive system in the country. JD Mahinay for the details.
Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno tackled the fiscal incentives for export and domestic market-oriented enterprises to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the sectoral meeting in Malacañang Palace. According to Diokno, it is necessary to balance all aspects in giving tax incentives so that the government does not lose income. The Secretary admits that the existing tax incentive system is better compared under the Aquino administration. He adds, although the system is not perfect, it will be better to keep it first until the day comes when the thorough study of the new setup is finished. DOF tax reform packages from 2018 to 2022 show that the personal income tax plummets to 458.1 billion pesos, while the stimulus tax package for pandemic recovery lies at 148.4 billion pesos. The agency records a raise in excise and VAT on lifestyle products and services amounting to 1.1 billion pesos, along with the documentary stamp taxes of 212.2 billion pesos.
Yeah, na-discuss namin to kay Presidente and sabi niya, continue to look into it. Kasi alam mo, binabalansin namin eh. Meron kasi tayong tinatawag na fiscal program na hanggang 2028. And right now, marami ring demands on the spending side. No? So, kung mamimigay ka ng mga incentives, mawawalan ka ng collection. So, we are studying it. It's not a perfect system, so we'll look for improvements. But right now, our revenue system is doing well. Okay? So sabi ko nga, yung namanan namin kay Presidente Duterte na tax system is much, much better than the tax system that he inherited from the previous administration. Okay?
DOF will also study the transition of the government from using income tax to consumption tax. JD Mahinay reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Bureau of Treasury says the country's budget balance hit a surplus last month. Christina Agila for the report.
The Bureau of the Treasury reports that the national government's budget in April 2023 hit 66.8 billion pesos. The balance marks a turnaround from the 4.9 billion pesos in 2022. The cumulative deficit decreased by 34.57%, or 107.8 billion pesos less than the budget gap incurred during the same 4-month period last year. The actual government revenue collections in the last month lie at 440.7 billion pesos, soaring by 26.66%, or 92.7 billion pesos year on year. The Bureau recorded tax collections amounting to 1.1 trillion pesos in the same month, accounting for 89.18% of total revenues. Christina Agila reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippine Coast Guard says the siphoning operation for the remaining oil from the sunken MT Princess Empress may take a month. MT Princess Empress capsized off the Oriental Mindoro coast on February 28. The tanker was carrying around 800,000 liters of industrial fuel. The oil spill affected over 194,000 people in southern Luzon and western Visayas. The accident also poses a great threat to the area's marine ecosystem. Diving support vessel Fire Opal is expected to siphon the remaining 120 to 240,000 liters of oil. According to PCG, the extraction may take between 20 to 30 days. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources estimates that 7 billion pesos worth of environmental damage was caused by the oil spill.
A new poll by the Social Weather Station, or SWS, says nearly a third of Filipinos believe their quality of life has improved in the last 12 months, but a quarter of the respondents say otherwise. Vin Pascua tells us more.
A new survey by the Social Weather Stations, or SWS, says 29% of adult Filipinos believe their quality of life improved over the past 12 months. 25% of the respondents said their lives got worse, while 46% felt their lives remain unchanged compared to last year. The survey further revealed that 9.8% of Filipino families, or an estimated 2.7 million, experienced involuntary hunger at least once in the past 3 months. SWS says this means they were hungry and had nothing to eat at all. The survey also shows 51% of Filipino families rated themselves as poor, 30% rated themselves as borderline, and 19% rated themselves as not poor. SWS conducted the survey from March 26th to March 29 of this year. 1,200 Filipino adults nationwide participated in the said poll. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, reports that the impact of Typhoon Mawar has affected more than 11,000 people and forced more than 5,000 to flee their homes. The council states that 3,483 residents are seeking temporary shelter in evacuation centers. Authorities also canceled 104 domestic and 17 international flights due to Typhoon Mawar, while 47 seaports across 5 regions were also affected.
Typhoon Mawar has caused major power outages in northern Luzon. We have Erlo Bringas for the details.
Local government officials says that at least 4 provinces in northern zone are experiencing power outages brought on by Typhoon Mawar. Governor Marilo Caico said Batanes is dealing with rotational blackouts as delivery of fuel supply for generator lines have been delayed. Kaiko appealed to Napocor for bigger fuel tanks for storage in times of calamities. She also requested additional generator sets. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council also reported that they have been monitoring power interruptions in Barlig, Mountain Province, Salapadan, and Lagayan in Abra, Banawe, and Mayoyaw in Ifugao. Local authorities said they are still experiencing moderate to strong wind, moderate to heavy rainfall. Pag-asa said as of 3 p.m. today, the center of the eye of Typhoon Betty was estimated at 355 kilometers east of Basco, Batanes, with maximum sustained winds of 150 kilometers per hour near the center. Betty's gustiness is up to 185 kilometers per hour. It continues to batter the province of Batanes, Babuyan Islands, Cagayan, Isabela, Apayao, Kalinga, Abra, and Ilocos Norte. Ero Bringas reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, warring generals in Sudan agree to a 5-day truce extension. OPEC will welcome Iran's full return to the oil market once sanctions are lifted. And Russia issues an arrest warrant for Republican Senator Lindsey Graham's comments. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
Web3 and NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, have been ringing the digital world louder than ever. Astonishing as that is, already here in the Philippines, an innovative company has successfully combined the values of NFTs and online selling of sneakers. In this episode, let's get to know more about FinCotton's success as an NFT project and how it has paved the way for multiple streams of investment. Paul De La Fuente, owner and CEO of FinCotton, is joining us to give us a sneak preview of his journey as Web3 and NFT enthusiast, combined with his love for sneakers as he opens for business.
We sell representation, we sell lifestyle. That's why people resonate with our brand.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Ba't naman di nyo kinuha itong alaga ko?
Hindi naman magaling yung nakuha namin artista eh.
Bakit nyo kinuha?
Anak ko yun eh.
Kasi anak ko.
Ako ay street photographer, professional. Pwede ba kitang picturean?
Sige.
Okay, go.
Pa? More pa? Pati naman ako. Nasaan ako?
Ito ay.
Clouds lang yan eh.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Typhoon Mawar is slowly moving but continues to wreak havoc as it leaves the Philippine area of responsibility and passes by the island of Taiwan. Japan also warns its residents of rough seas, high tides, and violent winds as Mawar approaches their country by the midweek. Prince Limonero reports.
Typhoon Mawar's strong winds and heavy rains have reached the eastern coast of Taiwan. Residents of the fishing town of Yilan secured their boats and homes against the typhoon. The State Weather Bureau said that Mawar has decelerated, but it did not lose its ferocity. Forecasters from the Philippines say that Mawar remained dangerous with maximum sustained winds of 150 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 185 kilometers per hour. The typhoon also knocked power lines in the northern parts of the Philippines. Mawar tore through Guam last week, flipping cars, tearing roofs, causing power outages and flash floods. Taiwan officials cautioned their residents to stay away from coastal areas as tidal surges could occur. Local coast guards also said they have been issued a high surf warning. Additional precautions such as beach patrols, warning thrill seekers are in place. Meanwhile, Japan, particularly in the Okinawan region, are bracing themselves for Typhoon Mawar. Japan Meteorological Agency says Mawar is slowly advancing northwest to the south of Okinawa. The strong typhoon is expected to bring gusts, high waves, and torrential downpours. Officials say Mawar may approach Okinawa's Sakishima Islands on Wednesday and come very close to the Sakishimas or Okinawa's mainland by Saturday. Prince Limonero, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Warring generals in Sudan have agreed to extend the humanitarian ceasefire by another 5 days. Even though both sides have agreed to put down arms for a week, they have repeatedly violated the truce, failing to secure promised aid corridors. Yolanda Aspiras for more.
The sound of gunfire echoed throughout the streets of the capital of Khartoum before the announcement that the ceasefire was extended for another 5 days. Since the truce began a week ago, people have been afraid to venture outdoors to try to get food or water. And those that do have found that prices have doubled since the fighting began 6 weeks ago. Most shelter in place, rationing what little necessities they have. The United Nations says nearly 700,000 people have fled the city of more than 5 million people. More than 1,800 people have died in the conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary. And the fighting has hindered efforts to get aid and protection to people. It's estimated 25 million people need assistance. That's more than half of Sudan's population. The country's healthcare system is in shambles with 3/4 of the hospitals in combat zones out of service. Yolanda Aspiras for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Entire villages in Sudan's West Darfur region have been set fire by militias. Aid agencies are now warning onlookers that Darfur is now on the brink of another humanitarian catastrophe. Looting and razing of infrastructure have left a sizable population without access to basic necessities, such as food, water, and medical supply. The fighting has migrated to Darfur as the conflict there enters its 7th week. The region appears to have plunged into chaos. Satellite images have confirmed that a village near Nyala in South Darfur, Abu Adam, has been completely wiped out by fire, the blackened outline visible from space.
Still in Sudan, sources say at least 24 babies have died in Khartoum due to severe medical staff shortages. Other reasons include malnutrition, dehydration, and infections. A senior doctor says the deaths were mostly of newborns and others under a year old. Another report reveals power shortages also make sterilizing equipment difficult. Doctors and volunteers say the children's nurseries are left in sweltering heat. During and early evacuations in April, some babies or children in critical condition were left behind since no ambulances were equipped to transport the health equipment needed. Sudan's health ministry has denied knowledge of any deaths or abandoned babies.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov believes Africa could become the center of a multipolar system. From Moscow, Russia, RT correspondent Umayma Ichar tells us more.
Foreign Minister met right here in Moscow this morning and held talks and ended up signing a memorandum on consultations between both countries. Now, they've discussed a plethora of things and in terms of cooperation in different sectors. One of them is business, the business sector, in which in both countries there are entrepreneurs that are interested in that, as well as maritime security, as Russia is trying to help Somalia tackle its piracy issues. We also have military cooperation between the both countries, as Russia is sending help to the national police of Somalia to tackle the terrorism issues. Now, not only that, but they've also discussed the humanitarian sector in Somalia, the issues that they deal with in Somalia, including the education. So there are over 100 Somalis in Russia studying right now, and the Russian foreign minister has said that there will be 35 free budget places opening up for Somalians starting from next year. Now, not only that, but Russia has also shown its appreciation to Somalia amid the conflict in Ukraine and the fact that Somalia has shown its support to the country. The foreign minister of Somalia has also discussed the long history between Russia and Somalia. Here's what he had to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russia was always the forefront and a member of our partners who have been always on our shoulder during the time that Somalia was in the crisis of civil war or toward this state building. Russian government has been assisting us in the efforts in bringing Somalia on its feet in the areas of security, in the areas of supporting the African Union missions.
Russia has also talked about lifting up the sanctions that are on Somalia right now, as they're not helping the situation in the country at all. We also have, Russia has said that the country will show its support in the UN Security Council and tackle Somalia's issues. Now, in the summer, there will be the second Africa-Russian summit that is coming up, and Somalia is going to join the summit. The cooperation between both countries keeps on deepening.
Kosovo Serb protesters engaged police and NATO troops in the northern Kosovo region, where there has been unrest over the installation of ethnic Albanian mayors. Tear gas and stun grenades were used to deter protesters in Zvecan after they tried to storm a government building. NATO has condemned attacks by demonstrators in Kosovo that left 25 of its peacekeepers injured. NATO soldiers also formed a security line around 2 other town halls. The crisis dates back to April, when Kosovo Serbs boycotted the local elections, allowing ethnic Albanians to take control of local councils. Kosovo's independence has been recognized by the United States and the European Union in 2008 after strained relations between Serbia and Albania. The Russian allies Serbia and Albania refused to recognize Kosovo's autonomy, with their citizens making up more than 90% of the population in Kosovo as a whole.
OPEC announced they will welcome Iran's full return to the oil market once sanctions are lifted. Iran is an OPEC member, but its oil exports are subject to sanctions by the United States. Washington hit Iran with fuel embargo to curb Tehran's nuclear program. But OPEC Secretary General Haytham Al-Ghaiz believes Iran has the capacity to bring significant oil production volumes within a short period of time. Al-Ghaiz also asserts that welcoming Iran into the fold of OPEC bloc will be good. He also guarantees OPEC members are always working to ensure the oil market will remain balanced.
The new president of Africa's largest democracy, Nigeria, has used his inaugural address to make a major policy announcement to ease pressure on government finances.
No provision is there for fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy is gone.
Bola Tinubu has ended the decade-long subsidy on petroleum products the Nigerian government has been providing. It is not clear when the new policy will kick in, but ending the subsidy will lead to a rise in the price of petrol and could have a knock-on effect on other prices. Despite its oil wealth, Nigeria is unable to refine enough crude to meet local demands, so it imports petroleum products, which are then sold at a government set price. The subsidy is a huge drain on public finances defenses. The new president said the subsidy could no longer be justified and that the funds would instead be spent on public infrastructure and to improve the lives of people. Nigeria's inflation rate is running at its highest or for nearly 18 years, with 1 in 3 people unemployed and the output of the vital oil industry dwindling.
Our administration will govern you only on your behalf, but never rule over you. We shall consult and dialogue, but never dictate. We shall reach out to all, but never put down a single person for holding view contrary to our own.
Somalia is reforming its voting procedures by introducing a one-person, one-vote system. Direct universal suffrage will take effect in local elections set for June of next year. Jay Suarez reports.
The change in voting procedures is being welcomed by Somalians who see it as a step forward. The country is struggling to emerge from decades of conflict and chaos while battling the Islamist insurgency and natural disasters. The country has not had a one-person, one-vote system since 1969. That's when dictator Siad Barre seized power. Instead, state legislators and clan delegates pick lawmakers for the national parliament, who in turn chose the president. However, rivalries between the clans have resulted in decades of strife and political wrangling. Jay Suarez for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez called a surprise snap election on July 23rd, a day after his socialists suffered a loss in local and regional polls. In a televised address, Sanchez said he informed King Felipe VI of his decision to dissolve Parliament and call a general election on July 23rd. Sunday's polls saw the main opposition Partido Popular, or PP, chalk up the largest number of local votes. The PP also scored significant gains at a regional level, seizing 6 regions that have been under socialist control. It secured just over 7 million votes in the municipal elections, compared with nearly 6.3 million for the socialists. The polls will come shortly after Spain takes over the rotating presidency of the European Union on July the 1st.
Russia has issued an arrest warrant for U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham over a video that depicts him celebrating the demise of Russian troops. The footage spliced together 2 moments in which Senator Graham called aid to Kyiv as the best money we've ever spent, noting that Russian troops were dying. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's office posted the video after the pair met in Kyiv on Friday. The Senator Republican played it off, calling the warrant a badge of honor. Senator Graham writes in an incendiary Twitter post to note that my commitment to Ukraine has drawn the ire of Putin's regime, brings me immense joy. Moscow's investigative committee had initiated an inquiry into the American senator's statements regarding the killing of Russians. Senator Graham is considered one of the Republican Party's most hawkish members on foreign policy issues. Last year, he sparked anger in Moscow after calling for the assassination of Russian President Vladimir Putin.
There was a time in America that we were this way, fighting to the last person. We're going to be free or die.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
Pentagon says China has declined a request from the United States for a meeting between their country's defense chiefs. The Pentagon had suggested a sideline meeting between Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu during the Shangri-La dialogue. Analysts say Washington is seeking to restore high-level communications with Beijing. But Pentagon claims attempts to establish contacts with their Chinese counterparts in recent months have failed. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning questions Washington's sincerity. Beijing maintains its stance against U.S. imposing sanctions on Beijing officials. Li was sanctioned by the Trump administration over his role in the acquisition of weapons from Russia as part of China's military modernization drive. But Pentagon says the sanctions on Li do not prevent Austin from meeting with him.
Top U.S. Republicans and Democrats work to secure congressional support for the debt crisis bill. U.S. President Biden says he feels good about their chances. John Milano tells us more.
This week, the U.S. debt bill will face one last hurdle, passing Congress. Top Republicans and Democrats scramble to secure congressional support for the measure just days left before the government starts running out of money. The deal was finalized Sunday by President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy after weeks of frantic negotiations. It now faces opposition from their respective parties. Biden says, however, he feels good about it.
You know, I never say I'm confident what the Congress is going to do, but I feel very good about it. I've spoken to a number of the members. I spoke to McConnell. I spoke to a whole bunch of people. And it feels good. We'll see when the vote starts. And look, one of the things that I hear some of you guys saying is, why doesn't Biden say what a good deal it is? Why would Biden be saying what a good deal is before the vote? You think that's going to help me get it passed? No.
John Milano for Matana Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A private jet owned by Elon Musk arrived in China on Tuesday. Business sources say Musk will expand Tesla's operations in China. Musk also praised China for its achievements, particularly in space exploration. He also met with Foreign Minister Qin Gang. Qin said China will continue to open up and create a better market-oriented environment for foreign firms like Tesla. The meeting between Musk and Qin comes at a time of increasing tensions between the United States and China over technology. Up next, China's first domestically manufactured airline makes maiden voyage. Dozens of people run down Cooper's Hill for annual cheese rolling event. And find out why part of Venice Canal has turned green. Please don't go away. We have more stories from around the globe when Matanang Agila International returns.
Susunod sa counterpoint.
Nung tinanggal ako, inihabla ko na.
Bubusisi natin itong naging desisyon ng Korte Suprema na nagbigay daan upang makatanggap ng mas malaking bahagi ng IRA ang LGUs mula sa national government. Ano ba itong Mandana's ruling?
Talagang kailangan na sa ganon ang ating mga kababayan matanggap talagang lahat ng tulong.
Makakasama ko si Batangas Governor Ermelando Dodo Mandanas sa Counterpoint ngayong Miyerkules alas 10:30 ng gabi dito sa Net25. Unang-una sabi ko nga, ba't siya matatakot? Speaker ka, pinsang buo ka ni Presidente Marcos.
signal to the world that we are open for business.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos. Every Sunday, 9 p.m.
This is Bruno Mars. I'll be performing at the Philippine Arena June 24th and June 25th. Go get your tickets at livenation.ph. I'll see y'all soon.
This portion is brought to you by Robit.
China's first homegrown passenger airliner has made its maiden commercial flight. The C919 narrow-body jetliner took off from Shanghai Sunday morning to Beijing. Anna Kui tells us more.
The country's first domestically manufactured plane is operated by China Eastern Airlines. State media says it carried 130 passengers. The aircraft is manufactured by the state-owned Commercial Aviation Corporation of China. Although it is assembled in China, a number of components, including engines and avionics, come from Western suppliers. Local media reports the company has received about 1,200 orders for the plane, mostly from domestic airlines. As far as international sales, the plane is unlikely to receive many orders. It would first have to be certified by U.S. or European regulators. Anna Kui from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In England, dozens of participants chase a 3-kilogram double Gloucester cheese wheel down the slope of Cooper's Hill in Brockworth. The competitors are set to race and catch the circular cheese all the way down the 200-yard or 180-meter hill. Canadian contestant Delaney Irving won the women's race despite being knocked unconscious. Meanwhile, Matt Crolla of Manchester won the first of several men's races. Sources say the cheese rolling race was held annually since the year 1826, but the tradition dates back further. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said that his eldest son is resigning as his executive policy secretary. This after he took responsibility for using the Prime Minister's residence for a private party. It was exposed in magazine photos that triggered public outrage. Shotaro Kishida invited a group of people, including relatives, to a year-end party on December 30 at the Prime Minister's official residence. Photos showing Kishida's son and his relatives posing on red-carpeted stairs in an imitation of the group photos taken of newly appointed cabinets, with his son at the center. Kishida Shotaro will resign on June 1, where he will be replaced by Yamamoto Takayoshi, who previously held the post. Representatives from 175 countries are meeting this week in Paris to tackle the issue of plastic pollution. During the 5-day meeting, they hope to get closer to reaching an agreement to sharply reduce the amount of plastic waste by 2040. Anna Kui reports.
The goal of the Paris conference is for 175 countries to have rules and measures drawn up by next year that cover the entire life cycle of plastics. French President Emmanuel Macron says plastic pollution is a time bomb and at the same time already a scourge today. Macron wants to see all plastic fully recyclable. Presently, only 15% is reused. It's going to be a big challenge to curb plastic waste. Annual production of the material has more than doubled in the last 20 years. About 460 million tons of plastic is manufactured every year, most of it single-use. Anna Kui from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Authorities in Venice are trying to figure out what caused the water in a section of one of the city's canals to turn bright green. Residents noticed the fluorescent green water Sunday morning in the famed Grand Canal near the Rialto Bridge. Samples have been sent to labs for analysis. Police are investigating. Gondoliers and boaters have been taken in for questioning regarding any suspicious activity. One city councilor blamed environmental activist groups who have been attacking cultural heritage sites in recent months. No environmental group has claimed responsibility for the incident. There are few parts of Canada that are not affected by wildfires or have a high risk of fire. The flames are burning in areas bordering on the east, west, and northern coasts of the country. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
Across Canada, the flames have consumed more than 2 million hectares of land and forests. The images you see here are from my province, Alberta, where more than half of the land burned so far this year is located. Neighboring British Columbia, which is on the west coast, is also beating back the flames, and blazes in 2 northern territories have kept firefighters there busy. Now, on the east coast, the Atlantic province of Nova Scotia has ordered the evacuation of 16,000 people from their homes as a fire rages near the capital city of Halifax. Even in areas where nothing is burning, the risk of fire ranges from heightened to extreme. The problem? Unseasonably warm temperatures and no rain. Canada's Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair says he's concerned about wildfire conditions across the country and the challenges they pose. The 2023 fire season started early and is still young, and if weather conditions continue to be hot and dry, some areas could experience the worst fire season on record. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up. Find out the real cost of King Charles' royal coronation. The Miami Heat advances to the 2023 NBA Finals. And Hollywood star Keanu Reeves reunites with his band after 20 years. Catch the latest in sports and entertainment. Matanang Agila International will be back.
Kwenta po yung binigay nyo. Tsukliin nyo po, 2 turon, tsaka 2 cheese stick.
Ano sa Tagalog ang peanut butter? Oh no!
Morning po! Express delivery po! Wala po, libre lang.
1, 2. Survey lang po. Meron po ako tanong.
Yung may mga kotse, dapat may garage.
Ayan po. Magbabago na naman.
Kilala niyo ako? Joey. Hindi ako si Joey. Si Joey manalo ako.
Oh no! You're only September 25.
Susunod sa...
On May 6th, the world stopped to witness King Charles III's coronation at Westminster Abbey in London. Beyond the bejeweled crowns adorned with the Cullinan and Diamond Tier of Africa, a priceless 700-year-old throne, horses, planes, and other regalia, many people wonder, how much did King Charles' royal coronation really cost? In the United Kingdom, we have Love and Season to tell us more.
On May 6, the world stopped to witness King Charles III's coronation at Westminster. The coronation of King Charles III at Westminster Abbey in London last May 6 delivered not just history, but also royalty. It was an event that displayed what the world expected from the British monarchy. The king and his consort, Queen Camilla, were draped in gold and jewels. The royal family was a regal sight before the eyes of thousands of people. Many people are curious as to how much this royal event cost. The event is traditionally paid by the British Parliament using taxpayers' money. Much of the royal family's expenses are covered by an annual payment by His Majesty's government known as the Sovereign Grant. Funds for the Sovereign Grant comes from a percentage of profits of the Crown Estate revenue, a collection of lands and holdings owned by the monarch during their reign, but independently controlled by a board. In 2022, the Sovereign Grant was set at the equivalent of £97 million, or roughly £1.50 for every person in the United Kingdom. Buckingham Palace has not yet announced an official figure as to how much the coronation costs. But many people or many reports speculate that the royal event hit between 50 to 100 million pounds. Now, if these estimates are correct, King Charles' coronation could be the most expensive British coronation. Some sources say the expensive price tag is partly due to the added cost of security. A British news site also listed the relative costs of past coronations in the UK. George VII had the second most expensive coronation on the chart after Charles III, costing £454,000 in 1937. The figure equates to £24.8 million today. The website also said Queen Elizabeth II's coronation cost £912,000 in 1953, equivalent to £20.5 million today. But an American newspaper said the estimate is far greater, reaching up to £46 million today. The least expensive royal coronation was for William IV in 1831, which cost £43,000 or roughly $3.6 million as of 2023. Some criticize King Charles' coronation as Britain is reportedly battling cost of living crisis. Yet the royal coronation still remains a symbolic gesture that formalizes the monarch's commitment to serve the United Kingdom. This is Love and Season London Bureau for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
China sent 3 astronauts to its Tiangong space station with a civilian into orbit for the first time. The Shenzhou 16 crew rides the Long March 2F rocket from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. According to the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, the mission was a success while the astronauts are in good condition. Shenzhou 16 crew safely arrived at the space station and met the astronauts from its previous spaceflight mission inside the core module at Tianhe. The crew consists of Commander Jin Haiping, Engineer Zhu Yangzhu, and Beihand University Professor Gui Haichao, the first Chinese civilian in space. China was the third country to send humans into orbit. Beijing plans to send a crewed mission to the moon by 2030.
In the 2023 East Finals, the Miami Heat defeated the Boston Celtics and will advance to the 2023 NBA Finals. After a dramatic East Finals series, Miami has finally moved on with a dominating Game 7 win against Boston, 103-84. Jimmy Butler scored 28 points, while the small forward Caleb Martin added 26 points to lead the bench. Butler also received the Larry Bird Trophy as he was named the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. They will face Denver in the 2023 NBA Finals, which will begin on June 2, where the number 8 seeded Miami Heat will continue their Cinderella story and try to win a championship against number 1 seed Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. Celebrating a landmark anniversary in Nepal. 70 years ago, Sir Edmund Hillary and his Sherpa guide, Tenzing Norgay, conquered Mount Everest. Jay Suarez tells us more.
The sons of Edmund Hillary and his Sherpa guide, Tenzing Norgay, led the celebrations of Mount Everest Conquest Monday. In the 7 decades since the New Zealander and his Nepalese guide scaled the mountain, more than 6,000 climbers have reached the summit. But climbing Everest's 8,800-meter peak is a dangerous undertaking. More than 300 people have died attempting to climb, including 12 this year. 5 others are missing and presumed dead, putting 2023 on course to be a record deadly year. Foreigners wanting to climb Everest are charged a permit fee of $11,000. That's more than 617,000 pesos. Jay Suarez for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
And to send you off this Tuesday, here's a quote from John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth.
It's okay to step out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Step out of that box
Step out of that box.
Yeah, dare to be different.
That's right.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Nina Richie Elago Flores.
And I am Gianna Llanes. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.